You're listening to a 4x4 Radio Network podcast.
I just went ahead.
Hey, Jeepers. Welcome to another episode of On the Trail with Kevin and Scott. Scott, I'm sure, will come along shortly and tell us what episode number it is.
178? Question mark, upward inflection. I didn't study. Continue with your intro while I scramble to look it up, sir.
Yeah. I'm Kevin. For those of you that are new to the show, I'm the engineer, the guy that reads the instructions, uses the right tools, and most of the time follows the instructions. Whereas my partner over here, freshly from digging through his phone, looking like a teenager on a school bus.
Hey, I am Scott, the slapstick, stomach loud parts guy, on a continuing mission to derail my own train of thought and realize that I was right. It was 178. How about that? A round of applause for Scott.
Hey.
Where's the button at? Oh, well, close enough.
Close enough.
Anyways.
Hey, speaking of show 178,
Yes.
a shout out to Modern Jeeper, Mattson,
Yep.
Corey, and
Jesse.
Jesse. Yes, Jesse, you're going to kill us.
I literally went through all the names in my head going, let's see, we got Madsen, Corey, William, and
I was thinking on the
Jesse.
show.
Yeah, exactly.
But they just celebrated their 200th show.
That's awesome.
Of Modern Jeeper, a great podcast. Y'all should check it out. Come on, get the right button. There
you
we
go.
That's for you, Madsen. And Corey and Jesse.
And you two kids, after $20,000 of audio training school, can learn to hit the wrong button.
So I hope the heck we make it to 200 as well. That's
Yes.
It's an awesome achievement. And it's worth a listen to.
Absolutely. And while we go through all those things, and again, congratulations to them.
Yeah,
remember
finish our intro.
Yes, remember, it's always up to you to do what you want with your Jeep, so make sure you do the research, read the instructions, and please
Follow them.
Yes, please. We appreciate you doing that. So, Mr. Kevin, how has your week, a couple weeks have progressed?
As you know, rather hectic. Unfortunately, not Jeep related from the effort. It's been more house related and getting settled into the new house and the systems functioning. And, you know, building a water treatment plant for a house takes a little bit of effort.
But it came out well.
Hey, the water's clear.
Exactly.
It no longer turns things orange.
And no longer crunchy.
Yeah. But beyond that, no, we have survived another couple of weeks.
Yep.
And the wildest thing I can tell you is slightly altered, actually got a bath.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have the button for that.
Yes, did peel off several pounds of mud, dirt, other accumulated detritus, just on the outside, kind of wiped off the dash on the inside.
Dude, let's be honest, man. That thing looked like a bridge troll before you started.
Well, you know, I can't help it. The trail's been rainy and wet and slippery, and
Leaving a trail of slime wherever he goes.
yes, but anyhow, and I was surprised how much of a shine there was still remaining underneath.
Yeah.
You can still see yourself in the door, you know, and the hood as far as the black paint. It's like, interesting.
This moment of bright and shiny paint brought to you by a crud cutter and a pressure washer.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
I really don't know if that's what you used, but
Close to it, but no,
Okay.
It wasn't crud cutter, but it was something similar. House and siding gouache.
hey, if it worked, right?
It worked. And paint may fall off later, but
No, that's a usual Chrysler thing. That was a factory option.
so yeah, this is true, particularly if it was a purple. But no, solid black's pretty solid. All due to a subject we'll discuss here locally coming up, but I decided that she needed to be prettied up just a little bit before I took her back into town.
You gussied up the old girl to put her best tire forward, right?
Yep, sure did. And it did recognize that I'm probably getting close to a new battery. As good as that one is, I had to go back and look at the receipts and goes, oh, it's coming up on 6 years old. No wonder it's starting to wheeze and whimper a little. And I mean, I've only killed it dead flat, a dozen times?
Yes, I was going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say half a dozen times, but you know.
And but she still starts, and she does stay on life support now. Just I have another phantom draw somewhere that I've got to go chase down, and with aforementioned work on the house, I haven't had a chance to go out and start tracing that out. We will get there. I've been too busy helping others and fixing a few other things and answering wiring diagram questions and fun little stuff like that.
Phantom of the Jeep draw. Sorry.
Can you see? You remember the old Edison Electric Willie Watt, the little light bulb head with the electric lightning bolt body?
What isn't the same thing around the Schoolhouse Rocks? I'm just a bill.
No? Probably no. This wasn't that. This was just their mascot.
Gotcha.
You know, and the funny thing is that I have a picture of him after you saying that, you know, in a little disguise with a dark hat and glasses, and I'm like, okay.
Well, you're talking about the Willie Watts, so in my head, I'm going through the Schoolhouse Rock cartoons, the channel clicker in my head, and then I get to the Texas guy hankering for a hunk of cheese. That guy goes off in my head all of a sudden. Yeah, but well, for me, not too much has really gone on in the past couple of weeks. I'm now going for the employment thing, so I've started job shopping, and I have a report coming up here. So you look up the Willie Watt thing on the webs.
Yeah, I was going to get a picture of him, so
gotcha.
You can see.
But I have an upgraded and updated report on my plastic. What was it? Well, how do we word it? The plastic gutter gutter thing for
Ready Kilowatts. As far as Ready Kilowatt was the name, and here it's come up. There you go, the image.
Yeah. What's when was that marketing? 1922 or
no? It was back in the 70s and whatnot.
Okay, I didn't have consciousness till the 83s, so.
I'm sorry, I was around.
Well, in the 70s, I was either putting my foot or my fist in my mouth because I was a baby.
Okay. It's obviously which one you sucked on a lot.
Yeah, okay. Family show. Jeep podcast. But where were we now? Yeah, we were talking about Jeeps.
You were talking about your life. And
Yes. So I gave a little update. It didn't wait a whole year. I actually got the Amazon Snorkel installed.
Yes, you did.
The China one. And I will say this. I've done a couple things, guys, and the parts did not stay in the garage. So first off, we'll talk about the Snorkel because that's the most pressing issue. Installation took about an hour and a half. I did it right before Christmas.
He did it himself.
I did it myself, all by myself. And it was was it after Christmas? I don't know. Point being, it got installed. So I installed it, followed the instructions, and, you know.
I loved his first comment.
What?
When you called and said, it's explicative deleted cheap plastic.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm like, we've had like 19,000 phone calls, man. Which one are you talking about? Was the one where I got my pants lit by two legs into one pant leg and I was panicking for an hour? You got to let me know. But no, but anyways, so, you know, the classic is you get what you paid for.
Yeah,
you know,
you do.
Including the GoPro batteries. You know, the GoPro batteries, kids, even if you get the longevity ones, they do not last an hour, okay? Just so you know. So I got about halfway through the install and the battery died, but that's okay. So the point being is, though, the installation was pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. You know, it looks like it installed just like the Rugged Ridge one. The only thing I will say, if you're going to do either the Rugged Ridge or this one, before you go putting a winch on your front bumper on the JL, take out the fresh air scoop or install it before you put a winch because I couldn't get the grill off. So luckily I had that little gear wrench kit that you showed me that I was able to get that expletive deleted, bar out and to get everything else out. But again, the installation was pretty straightforward. Again, about an hour and a half. And I know I said that twice now. And so as I was putting things together, again, I followed them, put the little valve down at the bottom so the water will drain out. And I came up with a really cool surprise. It actually came with the cowl snorkel part too. So you're not just, because I was worried because it was cheap, it just have just a big snorkel up top and that was it. When I say, if you guys have ever been to the Home Depot or the home improvement stores, you have those little things that like slide on the bottom of your grain gutters. Is that
the
cheap
downspout?
The downspout, the cheap downspout plastic. Mm-hmm. That is exactly what this thing is made out of. And I was like,
recycled cafeteria trays.
No, that's probably the Rugged Ridge one. This one is a recycled plastic spoons. Okay, but again, I got it all together, and
it doesn't look bad.
It doesn't look bad, and it is functional.
And particularly, you decorated yours up a little bit with the little lower, what is it, cowl intake grate.
Yes. I actually
antique bronzed.
antique bronze. You know, I'm just going to say 392 gold.
Whatever.
Whatever. So I get all that done, and it was actually rather straightforward. With again, I'm not buying this to go off roading. Again, this was bought for looks, kind of a throwback to Dory when she hydrolocked her motor on her Jeep. This is kind of all those kind of reasons why I did it. So fast forward to driving it for a couple weeks. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say this, because I took off that restrictive exhaust or intake.
Yeah,
it is a little more of a throatier growl. Now, I'm not talking. It sounds like a 392. It doesn't sound like slightly altered, but you get around the 4,000 RPM, and it changed from an anemic kid breathing through a straw to a slight growl.
Yeah.
And I'm actually enjoying it. Trying to, it's
a lot of people don't realize a lot of the sound of a performance engine isn't exhaust.
It's the intake.
It's the intake growl.
And I am having trouble keeping my foot out of it. And the other thing too that I will say, now again, the 3.6 is not a performance motor. It is not a powerhouse. You're not going to win a race because it's a V6 pushing a brick. So I will say this, but around 4,500 RPM, I have noticed there is a distinct pull now.
Yeah,
she breathes better in that you call it the ram air effect.
Yeah, if you have the snorkel on, with the facing forward, you will get a ram air effect, probably around 45, 50 miles an hour and above, where the airflow being rammed in that scoop overcomes the losses due to all the piping. Mm-hmm. So that's a good thing.
It's a good thing. Now
it's also cold.
It was also
relatively
cold.
Speaking.
And one of the things I did notice after about a week of driving is the one where the top of the air box, the plastic was, again, this is cheap plastic. It crumpled, and Kevin saw the little, like, where it was, what do you call it, pulling or crumpling? Well, how would you describe that little?
It was a fold in the circle. It was slid together, and if you can think it's an oval, and if you squeeze a hose or an oval too tight, you get a fold, and it kind of crumples in on itself.
Yeah. So what I did is I recently took it apart, and the little brace they have in there was metal, and I kind of pushed it up a little more to where I was tightening, and I gave myself a little more wiggle room with the because I had so much hose jammed up at the cowl. I pulled that back so I could run that hose closer to the top of the plenum.
Yeah, the intake.
And then I ran the things down. This time I used my hands and not the typical power thing. And so far, it's holding. It's not crumpling anymore. Everything looks good. But again, at the end of the day, for $230, I got what I paid for. Mm-hmm. Now, what I would really like to do is see a Rugged Ridge one. That would be my thinking on that, to see how that looks. Because again, I want to
go compare it and see if it's the same level of plastic or if it's a millimeter thicker, or
Yeah, it is what it is. So I'll throw the video up online so you guys can look at it. But other than that, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So,
any comments, questions, concern on the trail podcast at gmail.com. Sorry, it looked like you were needing to cut off or something.
No.
Oh, the phone's down here.
So anyway, while he's sitting here taking pictures and editing the time gaps and stuff.
Well, I had to edit out that huge cuss word thing I had.
Let's go on to the next one, which is a little more local. Mm-hmm. For those of you around the rest of the listening planet here that seems to listen to us, thank you. But we had a really nice event here. For those of you that, again, aren't listeners for way back in the beginning, we've had an association with a local Tampa Jeep group called Tampa Jeep Crew, with the crew being spelled with a K, like a pirate crew. And TJK has been around for 9 years, coming up on 10.
April will be 10 years.
And Scott and I are actually both predate the starting of the group. And back when TJK was it was 13 or 14 Jeeps. And meeting at that place, Steak and Shake. Steak and Shake up off of Hillsborough Avenue. Mm-hmm. And anyhow, it has grown and it has seen its challenges. It's generally been a fantastic group, but we had a call it a winter social last week that I attended. There's a reason that Slightly Altered got a bath was I decided I wouldn't drag most of the trails up there and leave them in the parking lot. And I have to give a really big shout out to the organizers, Mark, Tanya, the whole.
They got a whole team.
They have a whole team, and I don't want to insult anybody by missing a name. And so the organizers as a whole, I've got to give them a shout out. This was probably one of the best socials that we've ever had. The location, the restaurant had been warned and had prepared and could handle. We had in excess of 300 Jeeps, which probably put us 600 plus participants. They had a raffle. It was, a lot of good socializing. I got to meet a lot of listeners, but I also got to meet a lot of old friends. And it really was the first hint of the old Jeeping community get together post-COVID.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying COVID's over, please, but I'm just saying that we had the opportunity to get together and remember a little bit about that other side of Jeeping, which is the camaraderie, the friendship, the getting together and trading old war stories, making new war stories,
making new friends.
Making new friends. And, as they say, Jeep, the only vehicle that comes stock with friends. It was a fantastic event. So my hat's off to everybody that worked on the Tampa Jeep Crew social this past January. And you done good. You done really, really, really good. And I got 10 years of backlog to compare it to. So that's awesome. And, for the rest of you around the country, this is the whole thing about when you have a Jeep club, get together, get out there, see people, meet people, compare notes where you can go look at other Jeeps, get other ideas for your Jeep. Maybe your Jeep will show people other things that maybe they want to do.
Yeah.
We had such a lively group without being obnoxious. Okay. We were in, I guess that area would be considered West Wesley Chapel.
Whatever,
Whatever, which is a sub-development area outside of Tampa proper. And so we couldn't really go out there, and it wasn't a wheeling spot. This was strictly a big parking lot that had, like a Michael's and a grocery store and all that other kind of stuff. But it was based around a Mission Barbecue restaurant who, like I said, did a great job keeping up with the crowds. And it was just a good chance for friends to meet friends and Jeepers to talk Jeeps and to go through the whole Jeep environment. And it was really refreshing to have one that just went off so well.
Yeah.
It really did. It really did. So if you're doing one of these things out in your neck of the woods, just remember that, sometimes it doesn't have to have an event. It just has to have the ability for people to get together and socialize and discuss and talk and have a free for all. There wasn't music blaring so loud you couldn't hear yourself, but there also wasn't people over there doing tire burnouts, It was just
a respectful crowd
of Jeepers enjoying it. And we had every kind of Jeeper out there. It was so active that we had, photographers stopping in to just drive by. What the heck's going on over there? And they came in, and next thing you know, they pull out their gear and they start taking pictures. And they will be probably putting them up in various places. And it just was a great situation. So again, hats off to the crew that put that one together.
That's one of the interesting things. Being an OG member myself, we saw a couple of people out there that have been kind of pulled back from the crowds a little bit. Like Sean, he was out there with his wife Jay. Eric was out there. A lot of the old alumni came out, to see and kind of the well-wishing thing. And one of the interesting things, and I'm going to put this out there because this is not the first time I've seen this, and me and you just now talking reminded me of this. A person had posted on there that, to some people, when a little bit of social anxiety or if, they don't know people, it's very intimidating.
It can be.
And they're like, well, I drove by, I didn't want to stop by, I didn't know anybody and all that, And some people say, well, they can be kind of cliquey. Here's one thing I kind of posted up there, which got a good response, is, next time, if you're on the fence about going there, look at the events tab, because a lot of times some people say, "Hey, I'm going wheeling." Now, this doesn't matter where you're at in the country. If you're part of a Jeep group, say, "Hey, who's the next people going out?" That way you can get to know these people a lot smaller. Maybe we're talking 5 Jeeps going out there. Mm-hmm. And then now when the next event comes up, you now have 5 people that you already know and can see, and they'll introduce you to other people, and that's how things organically grow. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things I made a comment is just don't get, again, I understand about, not knowing people, but at the same time, try a smaller event.
Sure.
Or like I said, even the off-roading event, because most of the time you're in your Jeep and you just talk when you're sitting outside. These are things to kind of ease you into those things. So just, yes, it's intimidating, but don't give up, because I met Kevin in the Steak and Shake parking lot, and look where this has become. I mean, we went to SEMA, we went to Tennessee, we've been to Georgia, we've been to Las Vegas. It wouldn't have happened had I not come to a smaller event. So if you're intimidated by that, try and find a smaller event and just ease your way into the group, because half these people and friends I know, like Tanya, she had a stock Jeep. Now hers is on 37s, and, she goes out wheeling the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
I can tell you almost every handful of stories is that way.
Yeah. That's the thing I like about events is going and looking at other ideas, and seeing what somebody else's dream Jeep is all about. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing, this little vehicle that, came out of World War II and has grown up to become quite a chameleon that you can make it what you want. And this was one of those nicer events, like I said, because there was plenty of everything. There was the JL 4-door on 20-inch rims with rubber bands and underglow, and sitting right across it was a 44's, and
TJ with body scars all over it.
Yeah, it looked like it'd been rolled 3 times, and they just rolled it the other way to straighten it back up again,
Oh, no, I thought you rolled the other way to give the feng shui of the dents on the other side.
Yeah, whatever. And they were talking, and not threatening.
Yeah.
So
the last time that TJ's paint was washed when it rained last.
Well, I've been guilty of that.
I was going to say, hey, the LJ right now is sitting on the side of the house collecting dust, and every time I get in the Gladiator, the LJ goes. I was like, yeah, I'll get to you in a minute. Hold on.
So anyhow, just some thoughts on a social that they do have some merit. They are a lot of fun. You will see a lot of people and meet a lot of things. You'll learn about events coming up, maybe some trails to go ride, something that might have been opened. We're still recovering here from the last round of hurricanes. And everybody's, oh, well, that was 6 months ago. Yeah, it was. I got news for you. When
trails are still closed.
Trails are still wiped out from trees and flooding and water cutting big grooves. And unless you get a team like your social group together to go out and volunteer, and please make sure you coordinate the volunteer. Don't just go out and do the good thing without helping, but you got to talk to your state game and land management groups, whoever they are, and make sure what you're doing is, within their purview.
Yeah.
But, they're not going to get to it for years. And believe me, we've got trails here that were closed 5 years ago from an event and that still aren't going to be open.
Yeah.
It's just a nice thing. It's another side of the Jeep world. I know we usually push the tech a lot on this show, but this one was just like human tech.
Well, and you just touched on it, and it's about balance, because yes, there's the diehard people out there that would say, I don't want to be standing in a lot and being a lot lizard. I want to go and do this and do that. There needs to be some balance because, again, the next person you go to Moab with in a year and a half, maybe the person you're talking to because they wanted to see what those fenders look like on a real Jeep rather than in a catalog. But that's the truth. So I think there's always there's a balance. There's a feng shui needed where you need that parking lot shaking hands and getting to know people. The wheeling.
You're probably the first guy that's ever used the term feng shui on a Jeep podcast.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Feng shui.
Whatever. No, I'm just going, boy, did that one go off track. I mean, whatever floats your boat, folks, is the key.
Or whatever ducks your Jeep. So No, here comes the hate mail.
Hey, it's a tidal wave. Whether you like it or not, you're going to get wet.
Exactly. And, if you don't like it, just scream foul and move on. So,
like water off a duck's back.
Exactly.
You knew that was coming.
Exactly.
So anywho, moving away from a plethora of bad puns.
Come on, man. I already got billed for these. I got to keep them going.
Okay. I will tell you one little tech tidbit that just literally popped out in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, that too. I've had many discussions about my rock slide engineering steps, and I know that they're technically, I found out they're not really Gen 1s. They didn't really sell many Gen 1s. It's the early Gen 2 step. And even after us being up in Tennessee this last year, kind of teasing them about the drooping steps, well, they have been working on that. And they have come up with a kit. And it was interesting to kind of do a little research into the kit. And no, I'm not getting one at the moment, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Right. Their modern Gen 3 or 4, I forget where they are now, steps don't use gas cylinders for assist anymore like mine did or does. And they use a counterbalance spring system, which is fine. Springs will fatigue eventually, but they last a lot longer than gas shocks. Just think, for those of you that are my age and remember hatchbacks and the fact that you'd push the hatchback up and it would slowly come down and you'd stand up too quick and smack the back of your head into the back. you know how long gas rams last, Same thing with hoods, the gas rams that open the hoods kind of.
The channel locks on the ram.
Yes. And it seems that, and I don't know this is a theory, that they have realized that gas rams, while small and do provide a fair amount of force in their package, eventually lose some of that. And the way the gas ram was used in the earlier shocks, it was extended when the steps were up.
Right.
And when you lose a little bit of pressure, it still opens and closes, but you get the classic drooping step, where mine has had the front drooping step for a long time, and I've tweaked it and adjusted it, and I've replaced the rams even myself. I just found the right ram. They didn't offer it at that time. You can buy them now from them, but they've come up with a counterbalance spring kit for about $100 that lets you go back in and replace the gas rams with a counterbalance spring and the linkage, and hopefully, I don't know, but theoretically that should help the droopy step syndrome. And just learned about this about a week before this show was recorded. Now, I can't bypass some of the fervor. There's a lot of people going, well, why isn't that just provided to us for free? Well, because the gas ram actually worked, okay?
Yeah. And
the fact is they're giving you an option of replacing the gas ram. They're selling you a gas ram for a replacement, or you can replace it with the later version of the counterbalance spring. This is maintenance, folks. That's just my opinion. Yeah. Now, I know there are a few folks that have some issues dealing with items that are still in warranty and going through all that, and every case is unique. I'm not going to argue that, and we're not prepared to go into political battle here. Yeah. I think it's actually pretty neat that they actually cared enough about their older product to engineer a upgraded solution based on their latest technology. Okay, when your computer system was a 286 model and they came out with the 486, Microsoft didn't come back in and say, not Microsoft, IBM didn't come back in and say, we're going to give you a new computer because there's a better model out. Yeah. They told you could buy it. They're not making you buy new steps. They're saying, well, we'll sell you the parts to make this work. And they've made a video about it. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. Now, the timing on it, tongue in cheek, Kevin, this is Kevin at Rock Slide, is, we talked about it at Tennessee. I've already started working on my own solution. And no, I'm not going to publish it or sell it or anything that. Yeah. But it's interesting that you kind of, both of us are thinking down the same line. So I'm glad you guys came up with a fix on it. It was nice to talk with everybody up in Tennessee this past year at the Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion. I wish I'd known you were working on it. I wouldn't put forth my own. But regardless, we'll talk about that more later, and we'll do kind of a review when I get a chance to look at this new solution in real life. I'm hoping to find somebody that does it locally, and we can take a look at it. Because like I say, mine are no longer going to be able to be done with that because it has my solution in it, which remarkably is very similar.
And which
Not
remarkably, half the parts are sitting 3 feet away from us.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm still, when you design by shopping, it takes a little longer.
Hey, guys, don't worry. He's not going to be like me and let these parts sit for a year. I can promise you that.
Yeah, they may be in next week. We will see.
That's what we're hoping.
But anyway, that's the latest information. So if you have the classic with the older steps that are drooping, the bushing kits, like I said, are available at McMaster Car. You do have the 1/4-inch black nylon flange bushings, they're called. And you do have to trim the length because I can't find the shorter ones that just fit in 1/8-inch tall. But you can rebush them.
The nylon low friction washers or whatever they have.
Yeah, no, those you can get on Amazon in bulk. Yeah. They're just fitting over 1/4-inch pins, 0.25. And you can adjust your shim packs, and you can rebush them to make them a little bit smoother. Mm-hmm. And then the biggest thing, though, is the understanding now that those gas springs, living their life at full extension, with the steps up, will tend to lose some pressure. Yeah. And it's not a lot. And normally if they were used on a lid or something where gravity was holding the component down when it was closed, you probably wouldn't notice. They'd be fine for quite a ways. But the fact is, it's the combination of the motor and its drive and that strut that are holding the step up from the back arm. And the front arm kind of just has the linkage. And that's why you get that nose droop. And when it gets bad enough, like in my case, that it becomes a little bulldozer blade and scoops up a load of crud and fills the step with it, you got to do something. So
see previous statement, washing the Jeep with a pressure washer.
Yeah, something like that. So anyhow, hats off to the guys at Rockslide. Mm-hmm. And I understand the challenges with marketing and that kind of stuff, but folks, they didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And they chose to look back and say, you know what, we've come up with new technology. Let's see if we can provide a retrofit kit to our clients. And I think that's actually a pretty nice thought.
Yeah, no, and again, like you said, they didn't tell you to go buy the new set. Mm-hmm. And so, again, with the engineering, because you get some tools and stuff like that, they're not making money on these kits from what I've been reading.
No,
it's just to get that out there. Hey, here you go. Here's a solution.
Here's a solution. And again, this isn't a failure of the steps.
No.
Okay, by any stretch of the imagination, it's just like your Jeep. Eventually the springs stag, you need new shocks,
Stuff wears out.
Stuff wears out. And particularly when you're like me, when I was using it as a daily driver and the steps were up, down, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day. Mm-hmm. So, I can't tell you how many cycles mine have been through. And I've been impressed that I could get a replacement motor because it's just a Ford door window motor, mm-hmm. assembly, and the parts fit. And the plugs fit, and the bushings I could get from McMaster Car, and they fit. Mm-hmm. And so they have built something that was, in my book, extremely serviceable.
And that's even better. Like I know, on my amp steps, the replacement motor gear drive assembly for mine is $125, full stop.
Yep.
Sure, I can get it from Amazon, but it's still $125.
Yep.
Sorry, kids, stuff costs money now. I hate to say that.
Well, that's what happens.
I do want to shift gears real quickly because
is that the grinding noise I heard? Remember, there's a clutch.
Yeah, crash box. So another little tech update, because I know you and I talked with Mark, or you brought it up about the oil cooler seals and the O-rings, how this whole problem with these engine on the JK 3.6.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The Dorman kits.
I was trying to figure out which Mark you were referring to.
Yes.
With a C or a K?
With a C.
With a C.
Okay. And, he actually talked about how, he's done 6 of these oil coolers this past week.
Right.
And
he posted a video.
Posted the video. That's what I'm talking about. And he used the Dorman one. And I guess like one of the main questions he's asked is, what's the longevity? How are these doing? And he's happy to report he's done a lot of them. They have not come back with another leaking unit. So that's some good news, I think.
And what he's talking about, folks, is the oil cooler assembly itself on the 3.6s. Mm-hmm. The cooler is aluminum, but the base plate it mounts to and the housing that holds the oil filter
is phenolic plastic.
Is plastic with O-ring seals, and then it goes and bolts down. So you have a sandwich of an aluminum cooler box on a plastic meat, so to speak, to the aluminum manifold below it, and it bolts together, kind of clamped down. And it's somewhat sensitive. Some of them are cracked, but Mark has said many times, he says, I don't see that many of them that are actually cracked.
Yeah.
They do tend to be very susceptible to poorly torqued bolts. If they're not all pulled down evenly together, it's like a cylinder head. If you can force a wrinkle into plastic really easy that causes an oil leak. And sometimes they weep, and other times they just pour oil out of them. And so Dorman came along. Hopefully most of you know who I'm talking about when I talk about Dorman Parts. They're an aftermarket parts manufacturer, and they have both good and bad reps, all like anything through the industry. And the good thing I'll definitely say is at least they stepped up to the plate, and they came up with their own design and had aluminum versions of the mount made.
Right.
And originally, I guess they came without the cooler itself. You had to transfer the cooler.
You had to transfer the cooler, but it came with the sensors and all that. And now it's the other way around.
The other way around. And there was a lot of concern was, how's that going to handle the stress and the torque? And we got aluminum to this. And, a lot of people had a lot of questions. And that was Mark's comment is he's put a bunch of the aluminum ones on. He's also put a bunch of the plastic ones on. And he hasn't had any of the aluminum come back. But he also, I will tell you, does the work very carefully, so I don't know that he's had any of the plastics come back either. And his comment was, you got to pay attention to the gaskets, the O-ring gaskets. They're not paper, they're not sheet style, they're little molded O-ring.
Yeah, little rubber donuts, basically.
Yeah, and they're not round either. They're fin type. So if you really looked at a cross-section of it, it's not a circle. It's like a diamond shape. It's designed to squish and seal. And then you got to do a sequence for tightening. And I don't know, I'm going to go off and going to guess that it's probably center and working your way out in a spiral, just like an engine head, so that you don't put a buckle in the middle. Because if you put a buckle in the plastic or the aluminum, guess what? It'll leak. So, it's one of those things that we'll see how they go. But the first feedbacks on the Dorman aluminum ones are tentative thumbs up.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, too, he also mentioned is that some JLs now, because they run the same oil cooler, everyone thought that they fixed it. Like, guess what? The JLs are starting to leak a little bit. And I'm like, I'm not surprised because it's probably the same part number.
Yeah.
Actually, I doubt it is because the 3.6 in the JL and newer has the newer update with the EGR cooler and the more aggressive variable valve timing and a bunch of other doodads and widgets. So... But the biggest problem right now is aftermarket trying to find one of these things. I've been asked to help another Mark find some for his Jeeps, plural there. So sorry, Mark, nothing. I can't find one. I was on the phone today at a couple places, and good luck getting one. But the most important thing though is like Mark talked about, and like I've said is, it's part of the whole general maintenance thing. Even when you go to get gas, you check your oil. Look around for puddles. Look for, do you smell burning oil under your Jeep? Or when you pop the hood, because I get a small burning oil smell. So I might have something weeping in the Gladiator because, again, I got 72,000 miles on it. So I would not be surprised if I start, having a little bit of a weeping issue with the oil cooler. But again, that's what I have the warranty for. But one good thing is if you do have a JK and you are over 100,000 miles, and you have not replaced those plugs, if you do those oil coolers, might not be a bad idea to also change those plugs too while you're in there.
By the way, just if you guys want to see Mark's direct report on this, you can go to YouTube, and it's a live. It's not a video.
Okay.
And the title of it, if you call it, it's The Jeep Lab. There is Jeep Lab separate without it. That's somebody else, but it's TheJeeplab. And under his live, he's got Jeep Wrangler JKU oil cooler update video. It was streamed 4 days ago at the time of this recording, which will probably be, a week or two.
Yeah.
But Mark, you can hear it from Mark himself, and lovely startup picture with him holding up a dormant oil cooler at the lead in. So Mark's been a big help with this show as one of our contributing shops as far as giving us information on real life. If you guys have seen any of the YouTube videos about, the mechanics shop, various videos of what the customer comes in with. And Mark shares a lot of those. Some of them will never make this show because we are a family show.
Well, he's also a contributor. He also gives us ideas like the whole wash your Jeep before you take it in, things like that.
He gives us a lot of feedback. So thanks again, Mark. And it's a great little summary that he gives on that, which is not it is opinion. It's his opinion, but it's based on experience, not just, it looks shiny.
Not just interwebs, keyboard whirring, arguing. He actually has got his hands dirty. Matter of fact, when I went there to pick up I purchased his old fenders, the black painted ones, for a sport. So I can hear people in there right now going, why are you going to put sport fenders on your Rubicon? Because they're higher. I have 35s right now. It looks like my Jeep is aggressively trying to hump something because like the front fenders are so high.
You said that last time when we were working on.
And so he had it for a decent price, and they're painted black to match.
Yeah,
and it'll kind of it'll fit the 35s better. And I hear everyone going, "Go 37s." No, I am okay with 35s, guys.
Do your own thing.
Yeah, do your own thing. Leave my toys alone. But again, they're painted black to match, and I think it's kind of cool because I wanted, because I'm tired of using the back to black mother spray. Getting those, they're already starting to do it, and the Jeep's only 2 years old. So
I've got the Rough Country 7-inch wide extendeds rather than the narrowed or cut offs on my TJ folks, and they have been tweaked on the trails so many times that they have stress rings in them. They look like they were cut out of some sort of a black wood. Marble, yeah. They have so many stress, the white plastic stress marks.
The little rings, yeah. Let me see. These
How many years old is it?
1, 2, 3, 4 years old.
No, they're a little older than that. But yes. But yeah, they do show some damage. To me, the plastic outer flares are expendable, consumable parts.
And it's so funny because Mark may post this video, but because I asked, how do I take these off? Because again, he goes, they're just like the JK flares. Now, if anybody out there in listener land has ever taken off a JK fender, what you do is you take all the bolts out.
Yeah.
And then you grab the fender on each side, one in the left hand, one in the right hand.
Pantomiming this, folks.
I'm pantomiming here. Can't you hear? I'm doing it right now. And then you take that fender and then you yank,
like pulling a Band-Aid off of.
It sounds like you are throwing your Jeep in a wood chipper. And I love messing with customers because we're talking like, but wham, and he'll rip it right off, and they'll just stop dead like, what did you just do? That's how you take these off. So it's actually kind of funny.
So instead of the wiggle and pull method that's recommended, he does the rip and...
Yeah, he pull starts the fender, yeah. So... But there is another little trick that I know, and I'm sure he knows, but he was just trying to be funny.
Yeah.
Is you grab the fender and wiggle and pull, yes, but you also pull up.
Pull up.
You give it a little tug, pull up, but you got to be careful because there are the 2-inch long... like on the TJ flares, they're like the bullets are
the alignment
dowels.
pins.
Alignment dowel pin thingies.
Yes.
And so you can't really pull up too much, but again, it's enough you can salvage some of those clips because guess what? And it was funny, we were standing there. Jason Meeks from Aerolids was there.
Yeah.
And they were working on his 392, and we were talking about the clips, and he goes, Mark handed me all the extra ones. And he's like, you have to buy them? I'm like, well, hopefully between the salvage ones on his fenders, there's one between my fenders, I don't have to buy any of these things because they're stupid expensive. And
by the way, folks, what he's talking about is a little snap-in inserts that the fender snaps into.
Yes.
99 times out of let's be nice, probably 105. They break. They break.
Well, they're designed to. And it's funny because he goes, well, they can't be that expensive. I was like, dude, they're like $6 a piece. And he goes, no way. He looks right at Mark, and Mark goes, I just bought some like 3 days ago, and they were $5.49 a piece.
Yeah.
And that was his wholesale price.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got there's a handful of them on my floorboard. So I'm going to try the up wiggle tuggle kind of thing. Did I just say up wiggle tuggle? Moving on.
Yes, you did.
Wow. That's my furry name. But no, but the point is that I'm going to try that to salvage as much of these things as I can. Because as we all know, if not anything, I am brutal. I am also cheap.
Yes,
so
this is true.
Snorkel
this
and point.
True.
But
you can always kind of work it a little bit out and then spray with the long wand head of some white lithium grease in there to lubricate them a little bit, so maybe they'll slide apart a little bit better than just snapping in half.
Again, I'm going to give that a shot. So hopefully next week I'll have some more pictures to post of the hashtag poser shots, because my Facebook thing is me parked up on a ramp and everyone's like, "Ooh, flexing it out, aren't you?" I said, "Nah, it's a poser shot."
So anyway, on to the last subject that we kind of pre-discussed, and that is that Scott is doing a little bit of, what do we want to call this? Not really a new job, but
I forgot what we were talking about. Holy cow, I blinked since then.
But, Scott.
Oh, you're talking about my computer work.
Yes.
Okay,
the
good.
fact that, Scott has been, he went to college for audio-visual production and then spent his career in the parts world. And now he is working back into it. And it's funny. I'm the guy who actually did most video editing, and I've never trained for it. I just kind of used the YouTube School of Learning and then started playing and screwing up and fixing it. So
Starting getting better than me.
he's been asked to do some work, and that work is for a company that we've talked about before, that we met the owner / president, founder, whatever his name is. Sorry, Mark, you'll figure that out. And this is Mark with a K.
Yes.
And that's WranglerFix.com. And they asked if Scott would be willing to give them a hand with producing some of the how-to videos for installing the computers, the literally under 5 minutes to change out.
I was floored when I saw that. I packed a lunch for the whole day, and I'm like, what? That quick?
And I rode down there with them the first time we did some videos just to watch and to see the facility. And hats off to Mark and to Tony and the rest of the crew there. They're basically building you guys computers as fast as they can, and they have a wall full of new computers and a bigger wall full of all the crap that gets sent back.
Yes. Well, I will say this. This is the hardest working man in computers.
Yeah.
Because when I was there the second day,
Yeah.
no joke, 2 hours of him on the phone. He'd put that thing down. No sooner someone would ring, he'd pick it right back up. And I'm like, okay, cool.
So Mark asked for a little bit from Scott. So Scott is doing a little bit of that as a job, and trying to help them out, as well as, do a little bit for himself.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing that's come of it has been a request for Scott to try out one of their modified ECUs, like they sent me the beta one, and they want to see how it works. I made a comment to Mark about the fact that, that it's worked great, but remember, mine is about as, non-stock as it can be without having an engine swap.
Yeah.
And so he's okay. So Scott may be getting one of those other things to do a little bit of a beta test on, see how it's running. So we may have some more information from Wrangler Fix on their, what do you want to call it? Pre-tuned or retuned.
We'll say fiddled with.
Fiddled with,
yeah. And one thing he wants to find out, because I had a poor idle situation.
Yeah, he's got.
And so he wants to see if that fixes a problem. So again, beta testing is exactly what we're doing, and he wants to see if it works with programmers. I don't use it
not
as a
to
program,
but as a monitor,
as an auxiliary gauge kit, because I have the super chips, and I like seeing my oil pressure, the actual 210. Digital out read of everything. I'm just a sucker for that because I like having those digital gauges. And so I'm going to see if it works for him, and if it doesn't, well, then that gives him feedback to work with.
So you'll hear more about that soon as Scott goes through his little things and then feedback back and forth of it. Mm-hmm. So just giving you guys a little heads up that we're playing in the market as far as helping people, seeing what we can do, and plus then when you guys get yourself a replacement PC, if you choose Wrangler Fix, I can't argue with the ones that I've gotten. Yeah. And then you'll get, according to Mark, this is future, but it'll come with a QR code in the box on a card, and that will be for your make and model, and they have a little video that says okay. And I look at it and going, you need a video for this. And then I realize that, probably people do. But, the only thing is I was glad to say that they did take the very first step, which is disconnect your battery.
Well, and that's the thing. Like we wanted to be, Kevin and I, from the day one with this podcast, we wanted to let you, the listener, know that we buy our own parts because we don't want to be beholden to a manufacturer. This is a situation where we're beta testing and helping one.
Yeah.
So,
and we'll do that.
We'll do that.
We do work with people to help them. Because, of course, reaching out with you guys, we get the opportunity to put them in contact with people that can give them ideas, can give them help, can be good. So, And in case of this, they would like Scott to use the LJ as a test bed. And there's nothing wrong with Scott's computer, but he's, in my case, that was a test bed, and I'm not asking Mark by any means nor suggesting, but he ended up just telling me keep the computer. I don't want it back. He said just keep it, and I was like, "Are you sure?" But that didn't happen till after
all the information was given,
and it wasn't 100% perfect.
Yeah,
believe me, the little bit that isn't perfect, I live with daily just fine. But. I had the rough idle too, and I know in my case, in my modified motor, it did take that shakiness out. My mirrors are now steady, which was amazing. But again, we'll see where it goes with Scott. It'll be interesting to bring it back from a second point of view, because now we have two test mules to compare.
Yeah, the same year, one a stick stir that's not been touched by the engine, and an automatic that's pretty much the only thing left is factory.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we're going to get a really good test bed. Yeah. But with that, though, I know it's kind of a quick show, but I have to drive all the way back to the other side of the state of Florida.
Yeah.
So I think,
and you know what? The lights are off outside.
Yeah. Looks like Florida forgot to pay the power bill. Anyways, sorry. There's something in the smart water, and it's not making me smart. Moving on. So with that, I think it's time.
Making them smart and wealthy, too.
That, too. I think it's time we lock hub, put the Jeep in 4 low, and hit the trail.
That sounds good to me.
And remember, as always, take nothing but pictures, memories, and your trash when you leave said trail, because we want to keep these trails open for our children and our children's children. Look at that. I got that right. Boom, shakalaka, without having to read it. It only took 178 shows.
That's awesome.
Yay, go me.
He can be taught, folks. Now we'll start teaching him how to cut his own meat with a knife and not hurt himself.
Hey, now let's not get crazy. In full disclosure, Kevin put a shock collar on me before we started recording. So with that, if you have any comments.
That is not true. You're going to get me in trouble.
No, it's not true at all. I promise. Other people have put the shock collar on me. But anyways, moving on. So with that, we'll bid you adieu. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, show idea, you just want to reach out and say hello, we love the show, on the trail podcast at gmail.com or the Facebook Messenger. I promise you, one of us will get back to you when we don't have a tool shed, water treatment center, fender, or a PCM, or a step in our hands. We'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Sounds about right.
I'm glad I got all those in. Or Gunner's leash as he takes me for a brisk afternoon drag. So with that,
they make skateboards you can stand on, and then he can pull you all he wants.
That's probably the only way I'm going to win a race with you. Slightly Alter versus Gunner the Trail Dog.
Depends. I'll just carry some kibble in the Jeep and throw it out sideways, and you won't be able to handle a 90-degree turn when he goes running after it.
Oh, my goodness. We won't go into that. So with that, folks, we could ramble on for another hour.
I know Benny well.
Yes, you do. Just offer some scritches until like, what?
Anyway, folks, have a good one. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks again.
Absolutely. On show 179, in case I forget to say it at the beginning of the next show. Bye.
Bye.
Proceeding has been provided for entertainment only. Proper service and repair procedures are vital to the safe, reliable operation of all motor vehicles, as well as personal safety of those performing those repairs. Standard safety procedures and precautions, including the use of safety goggles and proper tools and equipment, should be followed at all times to eliminate the possibility of personal injury or improper service which could damage the vehicle or compromise its safety.
What he said. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. You guys have a great day.
Bye.
This has been a Bent Axle Media production.